Hi everybody, I'm Laura from Club Soda, and like everyone else, I'm working from home, and I'm going to apologise now for the fact that we have hundreds of flats being built around where we are, and I can't do anything about that. But what I wanted to talk to you about today is the new growth in the low and no sector and where we think it's going to go. But just a little bit about Club Soda, first of all. So we are a mindful drinking movement. Our goal is to help people drink more mindfully in order to live well. And there's three planks to what we do. They developed over the time we've been going, and we launched in January 2015. First of all, we have choice. That's probably what's most relevant to you today. We believe that better drinking, more mindful drinking, starts with making better choices, and alcohol-free drinks is a key one of those. We see substitution as a really important behaviour change technique that people can employ in order to drink less and live a healthier lifestyle. Alcohol-free drinks are pivotal to this. We believe in connection. It's like a superpower of behaviour change. Connecting with others, doing something similar to you really makes a difference. And finally, we support change. And you may know that we also run courses for people in the hospitality sector, funded by the Drinks Trust, to help those working with alcohol drink more mindfully. Now, when we launched in 2015, I have to say the world was a very different place. And the reason why we've got so involved in the low and no drink space is we did a piece of research really early on called Nudging Pubs, which was funded by Hackney Council. And we really just took the behaviour change techniques we knew that apply to individuals and wondered what it would take to get venues to treat their non-drinking customers better. And we identified a few key things. There's some levers of change that are very difficult to deal with, like getting fridge space, dealing with wholesalers, and those sorts of things. And then there's also what it is that takes venues to begin to think differently about changing what they stock. Obviously, the cash register is king in any business, and the economic case needs to be made for low and no drinks. But also peer and customer recognition are really important to venues. And from that, we developed clubsodaguide.com, which was a guide to all the low and no alcohol drinks and which venues had them, so we could celebrate the better venues. And then we developed the festival, which is the Mindful Drinking Festival, which we managed to scrape together, 20 drinks brands in 2017. And at the last festival, we had over 60. But what those do is demonstrate, I guess, to everybody that the low and no space has shifted quite a lot in the last 5 years. And the big question for everybody is what happens next? We know some very key things about low and no drinks. We know that they're up from a very low base, but they're growing, and they're still growing throughout lockdown. Mindful drinking and being sober curious is most definitely a trend. It's all age groups and not just millennials. The biggest buyers of low and no drinks also buy alcohol. Never forget this. This isn't about being teetotal. And there's still a large number of consumers who haven't even tried any low or no drinks yet. It's about 33% of consumers haven't tried a low or no drink. But what are we talking about? That stat about it being about people moderating is really important. I think post-lockdown, 17 million people in the UK alone talk about wanting to change their drinking habits. If you add on the 4 million people who are teetotal, that's a 20 million people strong market in the UK alone. And we know that things are also changing across Europe, Australia, and America. But I guess there's still a lot of things that we don't know about the consumer. How fast these sales grow, how can you encourage venues to serve that community or serve that need whilst it's still being quite a small section of the market? Will the trend turn? How do we encourage more people to become low and no buyers? I think there's some really interesting nuggets already out there, and I hope you'll hear from some of those people today. But what we know is this, that what you drink when you go out is most important to people who normally drink alcohol. In fact, most people who haven't drunk alcohol long term have been beaten into death by submission through bad choices. So you still need to navigate the consumer, particularly if you've got a largely alcohol-led offer. So making sure that drinks are in eye line, making sure that if you've got a menu that those drinks are on them, and training staff to answer consumer questions. And there's two big things about that. The first is when somebody asks for alcohol-free drink or something non-alcoholic, What you don't need to do is just tap the top of that Coke on a hose machine and say, well, we've got Coke or lemonade. Instead, start from the basis that this is an adult consumer who's not drinking tonight for whatever reason that may be, and start with the premium products in the fridge and begin to navigate consumers around taste and occasion rather than just what's long and refreshing. And guarantee you people will buy more drinks in an evening that way than if they were given a pint of very sugary Coke at the start of the evening. The next is that your venues need to be able to communicate with consumers about things that you would never have had to do around alcohol. So ingredients, calories and amounts of sugar are really important questions for consumers that you wouldn't have had to answer before. Sugar-free trend and diet, by the way, is a really important driver in this space as well. So we know that we need to educate venues. We need to know that we need to make products more visible, and that it's really important those products fit the brand of the venue that you're in. So if you're in a craft beer venue, then there's some great alcohol-free craft beers there. If you're in a cocktail venue, don't just put some juices together and call that a cocktail. Find yourself a great alcohol-free spirit and make alcohol-free equivalents of the things that people already know. If you're a restaurant, think very much about what would pair and go well with your food, and don't walk away from the table if you're a sommelier, when the customer says that they're not drinking alcohol. The other thing to know, and is really important about the economics of this, is that venues pay their rent 24/7. And so they need to maximize what it is that they sell when they open. So you might have a different lunchtime food menu to evening menu. So why don't you have the same for your drink menu? Know that you've got customers coming in at lunchtime who may have driven to your venue, or who are not drinking for all sorts of reasons. Like it might be a weeknight and they're going to the gym tomorrow, or they've taken up running during lockdown. Having a menu that caters for different times of day, different times of the week and different occasions is also really important, and is a great way to help guide your consumers to things they may not have tried before. Your staff can be the greatest champions of low and no, encouraging them to use low and no as part of their diet, as part of being a healthy workforce, means that them having tried it means that they will be able to talk a lot more to consumers about that product too. So don't just stop your staff using them or to having those drinks. Make sure that they use them as well. So finally, what can I tell you that's really important? We've got some research coming out, and we hope that you will look at it when it does. But I'm going to give you some sneak previews. Firstly, beer is still the most popular low and no drink category in the world, even for former wine drinkers. That's really important. The view on the quality of alcohol-free wine is not as good as it is for alcohol-free beer. So those wine switchers, they switch to alcohol-free beer when they go alcohol-free. That also includes a lot of women who would never have drunk beer before as an alcoholic product, are switching to beer as an alcohol-free product. That shows you really how important quality of product is in this space. The disappointment with 0% wines is very, very common. Supermarkets are still the most common source of low and no purchases, followed by our online retailers. Finding new drinks in venues is still quite small, but actually doing a survey at this point in time when venues have been closed probably reflects that. And that there are many different journeys into mindful drinking, but also some very shared features. Quality, pricing, and those sort of things are really important to the consumer. So we think there are 5 types of low and no consumer. There are those that are loyal to beer. They drank beer, they carry on drinking beer as an alcohol-free product. There are the switchers from wine to alcohol-free beer who aren't happy with the quality of the product that's on offer for them. There are those that purchase just what's available. They'll look through the supermarket shelf or at what the pub's got and have a stab at something, even though they might not have tried it before. There are those that are looking for quality, and especially if you're in a venue that prides yourself in quality of product, like a cocktail bar or a hotel, there'll be those who'll be really looking to hear the story, understand the ingredients, and know how a product's made. And then finally, there are those that are just cutting down, and they're looking for something to supplement during certain days of the week, but still won't compromise on certain occasions where they still want to have their favourite alcoholic drink. You will see all of those reflected in venues, and venues have really upped their game over the last 3 years in ways that I never thought would be possible. But there's a long way to go, particularly in restaurants, particularly around the daytime offer, and particularly around cocktails, where some of the new products that mimic alcoholic products mean that you don't need to be an expert bartender to make a great tasting cocktail. I hope some of this has given you a flavour of the fact that we're really early in the journey around low and no, and that learning now is only going to mean that you're able to serve a massive community that desperately want to try these products going forward. There is nowhere near saturation in this market yet. There is great demand. There's huge amounts of curiosity. And America itself is only just waking up to this market. And there are some exciting developments happening there too over the next few months, including a launch of the first alcohol-free online shop in the States. So I guess what I'm saying to you is watch this space, but even better, be part of it.